Welcome back. Now, the decision by the Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank to leave rates unchanged did not come as a surprise to many. However, some in the organized private sector seem not to be happy with that decision. I'm being joined by the Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Muda Yusuf, to share his perspectives and that of his members on these decisions. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming.
Good morning. It's a pleasure.
Always good to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Right. Were you surprised at the outcome of this MPC meeting?
Well, I wasn't surprised.
Why?
I wasn't surprised because knowing the mindset of the CBN and listening to the CBN governor, I think about a few days to the MPC meeting, the lecture or the speech he made at the Vanguard Award, you could see the position of the CBN, from that speech. The CBN has almost a disproportionate fixation on the issue of price stability and inflation. And once you have the kind of situation you have...
But that is the mandate, so to say.
And that is the mandate. Mm-hmm. But you see, we have to have a holistic view of the economy. And we have to situate policies within the context of prevailing conditions. That is where we differ in some of these policy measures. So in terms of whether one was surprised, one wasn't really surprised. And a lot of predictions actually was expecting that this rates will remain unchanged, knowing the antecedents of the CBN and knowing the way the CBN thinks and approaches things like this. So that is why I would say that I wasn't surprised. But as to whether the policy outcome was desirable or not, that's a different matter.
So what outcome would you consider desirable at this time?
Well, from the private sector point of view, what we bring to the table is investment. And what we expect from any policy, whether it's trade policy, whether it's fiscal policy, whether it's monetary policy, is something that can stimulate investment. And you cannot stimulate investment if the cost environment is not good and if the environment does not inspire confidence. What we need now are policies that can inspire confidence in investors. And we need to disaggregate the components of investments that I'm talking about, that we expect to bring from the private sector. Investment. That is investment done by those entrepreneurs that are resident in Nigeria. And these are entrepreneurs that range from both the small, medium, and large. We have the foreign direct investments. These are investments that we expect from outside the country. We have foreign portfolio investments. These are also investments that are supposed to come from outside the country. When an economy is in the kind of situation in which we are talking of recession, we are talking of unemployment, we are talking of growth. I think everything that we can do to ensure that we stimulate these components of investment should be done. Because it's about bringing capital into this economy. The government alone cannot drive this economy. Of course, there have been some measures talk about stimulus. That is the public sector component of investment, spending and all of that. But the total budget this year, for instance, is about 7.3 trillion. We are dealing with an economy of over 100 trillion. And if you create the right kind of environment, you can have capital inflow that is triple what you have in the budget, much more than that. So that is why we are concerned that the outcome of policy must impact on all these components of investment positively. But for me, what we have seen in the MPC outcome is not likely to impact positively on all of these things.
Now, the central bank governor has always argued that the monetary policy really can't do it alone. The fiscal authority, needs to come in. They have to play their own role. The monetary policy will do theirs. The fiscal authorities will do their own. And the central bank, of course, as he says, has always gone out of their way to actually support some of these SMEs by providing them with different fundings and all of that. So how do you now recognize this?
We have to be strategic and systemic in our approach to economic management issues. It is good to intervene in agric, and these are micro issues. These are sectoral issues. We are looking at something that is more systemic, that will transmit through the entire gamut of the economy, that have very serious macroeconomic impact. Take interest rates, for instance, because the growth we have with some of these policies is in a number of areas. In the area of interest rates, in the area of foreign exchange management, and to some extent in the area of trade policy. Because there's some elements of monetary policy that are taking on the responsibility of trade policy. It's those three components. Let me start with interest rates. Now, if you want to stimulate domestic investment, and we need a lot of domestic investment, how can you do that with an interest rate that's ranging between 25% and 30%? In some cases, 35%. How do you want investors to invest in that kind of environment? Particularly those who can really create value, like those in the real sector. I mean, what kind of business will you do? Can you do manufacturing profitably with a 30% interest rate? Can you do investment in agriculture with 30% interest rate? Can you do construction or property development or aviation or transportation? Think of any sector. So the interest rate regime is strangulating.